Hi, I'm Lauren Edmonds. I'm the founder and owner of a school that supports children with learning delays. I'm hoping this space gives you something to think about.
So I just love talking about failure because it seems like we all understand it as a dirty word rather than where learning actually resides. And a book that I picked up some time ago it's called The Gift of Failure, How to Step Back and Let Your Child Succeed, written by Jessica Lahey. And it really helped to shape my thoughts around failure and mistakes even more. My own daughter was really struggling and making a ton of mistakes, and the system was calling her a failure. And I had options. I felt I had other options. I felt I could take this idea of failure that she was clearly experiencing and turn it into something else. And I found the work of Anat Baniel, and I found the book of Jessica Lahey's book, and it just reinforced this notion of how we view failure as adults is the problem, not the child necessarily who is failing. And we can turn failure into success if we have the right attitude, the right language, and we teach the right skills. And the story that Jessica has in her book that really hit home for me when I first read it, and I'll read it to you now. She preempts it by saying, in order to help children make the most of their education, parents must begin to relinquish control and focus on these three goals. 1, embracing opportunities to fail. 2, finding ways to learn from failure. And 3, creating positive homeschool relationships. And we might get into that third one later, but I want to focus on the first 2. And this is her story, and I think it hits home. What hit home for me as a young mom years ago, and I'm hoping it speaks to you as well. But I want, another precursor to this is hear the story from a point of view of, I'm stuck because my child won't, and I don't know what to do next. So this is what she says. The day I finally came to terms with my overparenting, I was determined to start making amends at home with my own children. I needed to do something immediate, something symbolic, and I knew just where to start. My younger son, then aged 9, had never learned to tie his shoes. I blamed this oversight on the invention of Velcro and his preference for slip-on shoes, but if I'm completely honest, I knew I was falling down on the job. He freaked out when I mentioned the situation, even in my most enthusiastic, "Won't this be a fun project we can do together" voice. He got frustrated with my instruction, I got frustrated with his helplessness, and the entire endeavor dissolved into anger and tears. Tears over shoelaces. When I began to look closely at the source of his issue with the shoelaces, I realized that what he was feeling, the frustration and helplessness, was my fault, not his. I had taught him that. For every time I tied his shoes for him, rather than teach him to do it himself, I reinforced his perception that I believed the task was too hard for him. That is one of the most powerful stories that I read around failure, because in our desire to help, or our desire to make it perfect, or get it right, or just get out the door in time, we often take over tasks from our children, and the message we're giving them is that they are not good enough to do this. We're not telling them that, "Don't worry, mom will help. Don't worry, I've got this." We're not actually showing them that we're supporting them. What they're hearing is, "I am not good enough." But what's beautiful about the story as well is how easily we can fix this. And I think that this story is even more prevalent for children with learning disabilities, because they will struggle even more. And if we hold them to an outcome that is too high for them, we ensure failure, but more catastrophic than that, we ensure commit to them thinking that they are not good enough. And when you think you have no possibility of succeeding, why would you even try? And then I can see how it would dissolve even more into us even getting frustrated with them not even trying. And then we start looking at it as the behavior. Well, he's always lazy. He never makes his bed. Or he doesn't listen to me because he's not making his bed. Or he's got demand avoidance because he won't make his bed. And I can see how this would escalate into something far bigger than what it is. And I wonder if we shouldn't be looking at our children's what we perceive to be an inability or a failure as their level of doing and leave it at that. Because think about the making. I love the story or talking about getting children to make their own beds. So first of all, little arms and short people are not going to be able to fluff that duvet the way you do it. You know, he's going to have to work at this making of his bed. And he's going to, if he's a young boy and he's energetic and he wants to get out the door, he's going to throw his pillow sort of in the vicinity of the top of his bed. And my advice to you is that is okay because he made his bed. The quality of the work is not important. You asked him to make his bed, he made his bed. We can, as they get older, start teaching them better skills. Should we put the pillow underneath? Should we make the duvet a little straighter? You can eventually get there. We're not saying that the way he makes his bed or ties his shoelaces or does his maths is how he's always going to do it. But if all we're wanting is for them to do the task, we've got to let go of our level of quality. We've got to have what Nathaniel talks about as flexible goals. We've got to say, what is the outcome I'm trying to achieve? I'm trying to achieve him willing to do something like making his bed. I'm not trying to achieve the perfect squared off bed like he's in military school. I'm just trying to achieve, is this boy willing to make his bed in the morning? Let's just take away the quality aspect. Let's just get him to make his bed and be proud of him for making his bed. And one of the ways we break kids down is they make their bed and we show them that they're proud of them. Then they go off to school and we go back into their room and we fix the bed. Guess what? He comes home from school and he looks at his bed differently made. And he either thinks, oh, great, if I make it messily, don't worry, mom will come fix it after me. And that's a whole nother problem. Or he might think, and this is the catastrophe of it. He might think, sure, what I do is not good enough. Why should I even try? Now imagine that way of thinking at school. Imagine that way of thinking when it comes to making friends and they feel like they're failing at it. We cannot bring down language on children where they feel like they're a failure for just trying. And we do that inadvertently with our behaviors, when we take over from them, when we do it for them, when we berate them for not doing it well enough, even though that was the best they could do at the time. It's an interesting way of thinking about failure. I think it's a positive way of thinking about failure. And I think it is something that you can do as a parent rather than making it the child's fault or the child's problem. They're just a child. I wonder if we could focus more on what we as the adult in the situation can change in order to alter and change the trajectory of our child. What can we take responsibility for rather than placing the responsibility on them, especially when they're only 6, 7, 8 or 9 years old? It's crazy to place that level of responsibility on a young child where it's not even their fault. What can we do slightly differently that might change them massively? And can we get them to understand that they are not helpless? I think that's a powerful message.